Welcome back to Grounded in Faith, where we ground ourselves in our faith in order to live it out in the world around us. Today, I am excited to have on the principal from St. Thomas More, and who I can consider a very good friend, a dear friend, Sam Francis. Thank you so much.
Hello, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great conversation. I'm so looking forward to this.
Me too. Little nervous.
Don't be.
Okay,
You're good.
okay.
You're good. It's gonna be great. You're gonna laugh because I remember, I think that maybe this is also so common, but when I was in grade school, we had this principal, and Mrs. McCullough. I wonder if she'll watch this, but I thought she was like, when you think of like a nun from the 1950s, she kind of encapsulated that, I felt like, as how she ran the school, even though, you know, she's a laywoman, married, everything else, but like very much, and I could never see her outside of that role, to the point where at my first mass, right after getting ordained, she came and I go up to her, Mrs. McCullough, and I was like somewhat nervous because I'm like, I'm gonna be talking to the principal. And I'm thinking like, it just is like this weird thing, and I'm sure you get that sometimes too.
I do.
Like in the grocery store or what have you.
Yeah, they're like, oh my gosh, you go to Target as well? Oh, yeah. And the kids get all excited and you get hugs everywhere. It's pretty, it's really nice actually.
Yeah, and you didn't start off, your career did not start off into education or anything, so why don't you tell us all that story, a little bit, how you got to where you are now.
Sure. Well, born and raised in, well, I was born in Hammond, but raised in Munster, and I went to St. Thomas More School, went to Bishop Knoll. Then my mom had MS and some other health issues, so she was in a wheelchair, and I decided to stay home from school and help my dad take care of my mom. My brothers were in school as well, and older. And I went to Purdue Calumet, now it's Purdue Northwest, but I went there and got my undergrad in education. And I was actually thinking nursing, pre-med, all these different ideas. Well, then my mom passed away when I was 21, and I couldn't save her, so I was out to save the world. My two older brothers are chiropractors, so I went on to chiropractic school and in Palmer, down in Davenport, Iowa, or over, not down. And I had a great time, and it was a lot of work, and I became a chiropractor. And so I
got your doctorate, like
I got my doctorate. So I got my bachelor's from Purdue Cal, and then I went and got my doctorate. And then I practiced with my older brother who's out in South Bend. And then I worked for a couple of other people. But, you know, halfway through my doctorate program, I found myself as a single parent. And I think one of the reasons why my life shifted and got me back into where I need to be and what God has provided me is it helped me refine my faith. You know, as a cradled Catholic, you do everything that you're supposed to do, and then when your mom passes away, you kind of lose your mind a little bit, and you make choices, and some of mine weren't the best choices. And so when I had moved and found myself in a predicament, I had called my dad. Nothing like at 26 years old calling dad with some pretty scary news to have to break to your father. Oh, yeah. And, you know, he was supportive, not super proud, but very supportive, and I didn't know what to do. So I actually found myself at St. Anthony's Church in Davenport, Iowa, in confession, and I'm asking the priest, what do I do at this point? I'm not really sure. And he says, you know exactly what to do. This is why you're here. So that actually helped me realize that my foundation in my Catholic faith and my falling away a bit during college, I found myself right back home. And it felt like home. So I started to attend church more regularly, and I had my son baptized. And it was a beautiful thing. But finished up chiropractic school, single parent, working my tail off, and then, I did that for like many, many years.
Why did, so that like, good job and right, like you kind of had the American dream, and not, you know, I don't want to use that, you know, just throw it away, but the sense of like, okay, this is the direction your life is going in, and to say like, you know what, no, I'm gonna take a 180 and go into education. Like, why? Yeah, what caused that?
Well, as a chiropractor, and as I was married at that point. I had married my husband, and he was an educator, and I found that, you know, education is the way to go in regards to helping to educate the whole person. Like as a chiropractor, I get to work on a person and talk to a person one-on-one, but in a classroom, I was able to work with, you know, 20 individuals or even more. So I actually left chiropractic and I went into high school science. So I taught some physics. I taught chemistry, biology. That was my wheelhouse. I really enjoyed it.
And you were in a underserved area.
I was.
The
in,
school
in
was
downtown Hammond.
Yeah,
and
it was
was
underserved for sure. Yeah.
It was a great experience, and you learned so much. I was pretty sheltered, I feel, maybe through my elementary and high school life, and it was eye-opening. The food insecurities and the blended families that were coming up through. I made some great relationships at that school, and so much so that I felt like I needed to lead. So I left. I followed my husband to St. Thomas More. He was hired on as an English teacher. I came on as a science teacher. It was 7 years ago, and that is about a year prior to meeting you. But I knew I wanted to be an administrator, and our principal at St. Thomas More unfortunately had brain cancer, and they were looking for admin, kind of, in a roundabout way. And I ended up getting my master's at Notre Dame. So I went to Notre Dame, did that. So now here I am full-fledged at St. Tom's, fully accredited, doing my thing. And
leading a school.
A school.
If not the largest, but one of the largest schools in our diocese.
Elementary schools, I think we are the largest.
Yeah.
We're sitting at a little under 550.
Really
and
impacting. It's a huge community.
Yeah, and it's amazing, like every day.
Yeah, so you talked about like that moment or that ability to impact people, especially kids' lives. So you talked about as chiropractic, you were doing it one-on-one, right? You worked on people, but then to be able to influence these kids, is it going back to what you were given, do you feel like? Or what's that impetus onto like, I'm going to go in at 6 a.m. and stay till 6 p.m., not making the money I could be doing if I was working these hours in this other field, right? Like,
I really do believe that the differences that adults make in children's lives is so important in society, and as things are shifting in our world, kids need to know that they have safe adults that are faith-filled, that we need to teach these children that Jesus is the answer and that God is right there with us. So when they start to struggle or not understand something, like, who's your safe adult at home? Who's your safe adult at school? And do you talk to Jesus? I mean, even today I was in my office and I had a situation with a little person, and I was discussing, what would mom or dad say right now? Oh, they'd be disappointed. Then I said, how do you think Jesus would feel right now? And he looked at me and he kind of started to like tear up, and he's like, I don't think he'd be happy. I say, no, I don't think so. So when you do these things, when you go to apologize for what you've done, don't you think, everyone is going to hear you, your parents and Jesus, and then you can start fresh and feel good about things? In second grade, you couldn't really do confession, but when they're little like that, to help them create that relationship.
No, I think it's beautiful because it calls into this reality that it's not just, oh, you hurt your classmate or, your parent, but like, no, in a bigger way that Jesus cares, loves, and he wants you to come back. And to be able to speak into that is really a powerful thing. Yeah, what do you find, because you're talking about just like, having a safe person at home you can go to at school, having Jesus in your life and all these other things.
Right.
In education, in a large school, and there's so many people that I'm sure that are watching this that maybe their kids are out of school, or they don't, they're not in education themselves. Like, what is the biggest, you feel like, struggle that kids are going through right now that our faith can speak into? I know it's a big question. But
that's a humongous question. It takes way more than 15 minutes to answer that one. Well, I just feel like kids are lost, that they're not seen, and that we are made in the image and likeness of God. So if they can understand that we all are here on purpose and that we see them, and I have a story for everything. So yesterday was the weekend, but the last time I was in school, I was speaking with an 8th grader, and she was just really having a hard time, and the teachers were saying that she's just struggling a little bit. Her grades are kind of sinking, and I brought her into my office for no reason. She's like, "Am I in trouble?" I said, "No, you're not in trouble." So we just talked a little bit, but I told her, I said, "What's going on?" And she, "No, nothing," shrugging the shoulders. And I said, "Do you realize how beautiful you are?" And she blushed. And I said, "Inside and out." I said, You are a leader. I see you with your church buddy. I see you walking in the hallways. I see you, gently saying hello to someone. Those things matter." And I said this to her, and then she just started to cry. And I said, "You have to understand that is what Jesus wants from us, to be a good person in every aspect, and walking down the halls and just being present. He said, "You are seen here." And I asked her why she was crying, and she said, "Well, no one's really ever said that to me, like, out loud before. Mom and Dad, yeah, but, like, nobody else."
Yeah.
And I think in what I do, I make such a difference every day. You and I greeted students every single day for the couple years you were with us, and it was so joyful. Jesus called us by name, and when we welcome people into the building, "How are you? How was your weekend?" Today is Tuesday. You choose what demeanor you're going to be in today. Are you going to be happy, or are you going to be crabby pants? So if you put a smile on, some people accuse me of having too much coffee in the morning, but I just think that it sets the tone for the day.
I know it's not coffee, it's Jesus.
It's
You've
Jesus.
had too much Jesus.
I would agree.
No, and I think maybe, and this is a case I think we have all fall into, adults especially, is that we just assume, right? We just assume, like, especially kids or even other adults, right? Like,
Right.
when's the last time we told somebody, like, you know what, you matter to
Right,
me.
right.
Like, you truly matter.
Right.
Because I care about you and the friendship and whatever else.
Right.
Like, we don't take that time to do that. And that's what Jesus does. He calls the disciples away by himself, right? He encounters, I just think, all the moments of miracles.
Right.
It's never like, okay, you're done next. It's always like, who are you?
Right.
And he encounters them. It's beautiful.
Right. And we're not meant to do this alone. So when I go to work, I never have that stomach ache on Sunday night. I want to go to work, and I want to see what I can get done. And I go early and I stay late to get things done so that I can spend time throughout the building. I try to stop in, like, every classroom every day, or I try to walk through the lunch period. And there's nothing more joyful, and selfishly, there's nothing more, "Dr. Francis, how are you, Dr. Francis?" And I get excited. But then when I call them back by name, and the little kids are like, "You know me?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know you."
You're the principal.
'cause
It goes
they're-
back to my experience. Like, what?
And then for her to be there for you and to show you how much you care,
Yeah.
how much, the relationship goes back and forth. It's super important that these kids, as they go through us, at St. Thomas More through 8 years, and then, choose Catholic high school, and if not choosing Catholic high school, to still be involved in our church and to make sure that they are doing what God wants them to do, and
Yeah.
choices.
What do you see as the whole goal of our Catholic schools?
It's a spiritual backbone. I think they need a relationship with Jesus Christ. I think they need to be strong in their convictions and to be proud and to respect themselves and their bodies, to respect each other, and to have manners. In schools, it's so important. Everyone's going to learn to read, write, and do math to whatever variable is out there for them. But to help a child form a conscience and have morals and ethics and regret and to learn empathy and those types of things. And I think in a Catholic education, that's first and foremost.
Yeah.
When people ask me what I do, I don't just say I'm a school principal. I always say I'm a Catholic school principal. And they're like, ooh, and it's a little scarier because they're like, oh, your sister who? But the idea is, rules matter, strictness matters because it holds people accountable and responsible for their own actions.
Helps us, teach us how to mature and grow up.
Exactly.
Right? And then I love that too. And the witness you gave yourself, going back to that, is it's a foundation you were given when you went through St. Thomas More, which
Right.
you're another principal of,
Yeah,
which
it's
is like,
super cool.
it's so full circle. And then it's
Yeah.
Bishop Noel, like, that all of a sudden when your life starts falling apart to in a bit, or like, okay, like, what do I do next?
Right.
Like, okay, I'm gonna call Dad, and then the next thing you do is, I need to go talk to somebody.
Right.
Well, I end up in the confessional line, right?
Right.
Like, well, because that was the foundation we were given, and to be able to do that for the next generation, I think is so important.
It is, because I think, a lot of people say, poo-poo to organized religion or this or that. But, to believe in a common God, so important
We
God.
worship together.
We worship together.
Yeah,
we're in
we're
community
not- yeah.
together. We live for each other. Nothing makes me happier than to put a smile on another person's face. I'm a giver. And I live a life of service, whether it be in chiropractic as a healer and helping people get better, or as an educator and helping my students or helping my teachers. It's a beautiful thing, and I feel like I've been given this gift.
That is definitely the common thread through it all, though, too,
Right,
right? Like, for
right.
you, for sure.
Yeah.
It's that common thread that comes through.
It is, and it's, I joke because when I struggle, like we're a teacher down or we're some students down or we're money down, I'm like, God and I are like this. And
I do remember, like,
Yeah.
after the first year, like, I don't know how
You
many
can't even-
teachers, like, you had so many spots to fill, and I just thinking, like, how are you going to do it? And you're like, no, I'm just going to
We're good.
trust in Jesus.
trust in Jesus.
It's going to be great.
It's-
Like, it was, like, one of those moments where I feel like you definitely taught me what it
Yeah.
meant to, like, no, trust. Like, because trusting is when it gets difficult. Then you have to trust.
Yeah.
It's easy to trust when life is easy.
Yeah, and there are times when you falter or you cry or you try to like figure it out. But if you just sit calmly and like, I pray all the time, and you can't write this stuff. As a school teacher, as a priest, as a principal, as a mom, as a dad, as a friend, like the things that just come on your plate daily, it's enough to go, wow.
Life is crazy.
It is.
But I know you would say, like, there's no such thing as coincidences. It's God's working
It's
through all
God's
these
will.
things. It's God's will, 100%.
And like when something does end up happening, you're like, oh, that's why that happened, because I needed this person over here.
Yeah.
And
Which I couldn't have seen when it happened or what happened.
exactly. And then to bounce things off of good friends, you surround yourself with people that are like-minded. Or, you know, I was just having this conversation today with a parent whose child was in public school last year, and why St. Tom's, and the child isn't making great choices, and they might earn their way back to public school. I'm not sure, but the goal is for that child to understand that they're loved and they're going to be okay, and we can forgive them. We're not going to forget what you did, but you're going to keep trying so that you can, you know, accomplish more and do more and ask for help and feel safe for those 7 or 8 hours that you're at school every day.
And we're going to give you the tools necessary, hopefully, for you to achieve that goal.
Right.
Because we want what's best for you.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
It's I think parents, you know, in Catholic education, what are you paying for? You're paying for the help to parent, and the parents are first parents, and we're second parents.
Yeah.
And you know, the parents pay for a bubble of sorts, and then they pay for the adults that educate the child, and they pay for the peers that are Jesus-centered. Jesus-centered.
The culture that we're providing. Yeah.
For sure, and it's all very. It's on purpose. And my quote and my vision is like, excellence happens on purpose. Everything is intentional.
Yeah,
and
the intentionality is so key.
Right.
Yeah. If you had advice to give, how about like to a fellow principal or educator, teacher, especially who maybe is in Catholic education and maybe at this point, right, like maybe feeling like it's halfway through the school year or whenever, right, like, should I do this? Why do I do this? Like, what would you tell them? If you, you know, I'm sure you've had it where your teachers come into your office.
Yeah, I would first say stop, pray, write down some pros and cons. But the big one is to find like-minded individuals in the sense of why are we doing what we're doing? It's not for the paycheck. It's not for, you know, the friendships even. It's about Jesus, and it's about the future. And it's about how we are going to help our kids, all of our kids, just grow and to know Jesus so that our world can become a better place. Like, I have 550 opportunities to help these children grow and lead and be and do, and in Jesus' name. It's super exciting because like they're all going to do something, and I want them to look back at the time they had to come and sit in my office, and I got to have a conversation and say how beautiful you are. Like, that to me is powerful.
It'll change our life.
Right.
It has changed our life, for sure.
And for a little person or a tiny human to get the smiles in the hallway, it makes a difference to be seen. Right?
Yeah, what we do matters for both ourselves
sure.
on our journey of discipleship and relationship with Jesus, but at the same time also the impact that we're having on the next generation is powerful.
So one other thing, what I would say, I know I'm going to talk too long, but the one thing that I would say to a Catholic school leader in any capacity, whether they're a teacher or a leader, is to find those people that you can talk to, because it does become lonely, and it is difficult to keep confidences and to make sure that you're still on the same path that you need to be going. So to find those people and bend their ears and lean on your friends and create those relationships, because we are here for each other.
It goes back to what you're saying. We're in a community for a reason.
Right.
We need each other.
Right, for
Sam,
sure.
thank you so much for coming on the show.
Can we keep talking?
Appreciate it.
No, kidding.
We'll turn the cameras off. We just continue the conversation.
That sounds great.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you know somebody who's in education or Catholic education, or you know this is going to be just a powerful story for them, make sure you send it to them. Like, subscribe, share this, so that way we can ground ourselves in our faith and live it out in the world around us. God bless.